From education to agriculture and infrastructure, Engineer Abdullahi Sule is exceeding expectations with his clear-cut Nasarawa agenda. Find out more on Nasarawa Focus, Mondays, 8:30 p.m.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
Taking you through as it happens.
It's fast-paced, hard-hitting,
With investigations that matter.
bringing you news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment, and business news so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with that.
Every night.
Every 1 hour, 86 migrants enter Lagos State. It is a beehive of activities. Every second counts in this city that never goes to sleep. There is always something to talk about. We go the extra mile to tell the story of Africa's 5th largest economy. We track happenings on land, on waterways, and in the air. We go against all odds to ensure that you are heard.
25% of the gas spread of Lagos is covered with water.
I'm Adedoja Salamadeni. I live in Lagos.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folai. Well, just the other day, the Lagos State Governor presented a budget to the State House of Assembly. It's a budget titled the Budget of Rekindled Hope, following upon the budget of Awakening, which was the budget for the current budget for 2020. And my guest is Mr. Samuel Egube. Mr. Egube is the Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget. So I imagine you had more than a few fingers dirty, so to speak, in coming up with this.
My whole hands and legs dirty.
Now, budget of Rekindled Hope, 1.15 trillion, and we're going to come to some of the key indices, infrastructure, food security, human capital development, technology, and apart from food security, even security on its own. But budget of Rekindled Hope, was hope lost that needed to be rekindled?
Well, Yori, it's nice you're asking that question. It's clear that when you are coming from a budget of awakening, an excitement in the air, you wanting to go, and suddenly COVID hits you from the left side, right? And what COVID was saying for most of the part was lockdown, stay at home. That was going to be affecting people's livelihood, was going to be affecting people's way of living, was going to be changing business fortunes and frustration. And not too much from where COVID tended to have given us just a breather a bit. The NSAS process comes out, right, to position the frustrations of the youth for change, and all that. Unfortunately, that then led to a riotous taking out of that entire beautiful process, and there was now destruction. And those destructions were not just for government properties, they were private entities who lost further there. So it's been a challenging year, and we need to give our people hope.
Indeed.
And that is how the budget is.
That then leads me on to all those other things that I spoke about earlier, infrastructure, security, human capital development, but because of what you've just said, I could now ask, to what extent did the whole NSAS episode impact on this budget of Rekindled Hope?
Well, in very many ways than one. One of the first things it does is, it did for us again, is, you look inward and say, look, there's something going wrong, right? There's something you might not be seeing. And you then look again at your strategy, the themes agenda. Is there something we missed in this themes agenda? We looked at everything, transportation, traffic management. We looked at health and environment. We looked at making Lagos a 21st century economy. Then tourism, which was badly hit by COVID-19 pandemic. And then you look at security. And what we came to the conclusion was that teams was right. Teams was rock solid. It was robust enough to go through very sharp and turbulent changes like this. The only other thing that was then clear to us that there are certain aspects in the team's agenda that we now needed to heighten. Areas around youth engagement, areas around our employment machine, which we had triggered off earlier in the year, which we now need to just continue to expand. Areas around infrastructure and enterprise support. Right, when you begin to look at how to engage your MSMEs and what is it about our people that leaves a huge chunk of our youth population unemployed. I mean, what do they lack? Is it that the industries have enough of what they want? And we knew I would engage the industry over this period and even before the administration. They didn't have the talent they required. So obviously there was a gap. And that then leads to what type of training do our people have? Why is there unemployment? Are these people skilled to take up the space? And now there's global requirement for resource. And you do not need to travel out to work out, right, as a result of where technology is taking us to. So how much of that are we participating in, and how are people prepared for the African free trade zone coming up? All of that is something that just it brought to light. It also brought to light the whole idea of youth engagement. How do you communicate to our youth population? Are you communicating with the right language? Do they know exactly what you're doing? Do they know how to participate?
Maybe do you yourself know even the youth? Do you understand
it is that
kind of an engagement?
Yes. You know, when Mr. Governor came in, one of the biggest thrusts was citizens' engagement. We have a cabinet ranking office to look at citizens' engagement. So it is big on us, right? And we must continue to tweak how we engage our people, not just the youth, really, so that you do not look at the world from your own eyes, but you look at the world from the way the people look at it. What it means is that you love people the way they want to be loved, not the way you think that they should be loved. So there is going to be a heightened, a more robust approach to our youth engagement mechanisms.
Maybe we could use that as some sort of a segue into Lagos has always been heavy on, human capital resource development. So now that this has made it even more present, as you've just indicated, so how much of the budget was devoted to it, and what are the things, if any, that really need to be pursued because of the immediacy of the situation?
Okay, so under human development, our investment there in the year in the budget is 148 billion. And that will include the entire education family, where we've put in about 137 billion. Our wealth creation, where we do a lot of vocational and artisanal types of training. Our women affairs and poverty alleviation, and what we'll be doing with the employment trust fund. It's a wide range of initiatives that will be going. But when we planned themes agenda around education and technology, what was clear when you looked at our demography was that the need was heavy and strong on technical education. Okay. And we felt that the education system needed to make some adjustments, right, for the industry. Right. So, for example, Lagos is very strong and high on the film industry, right? And we felt we needed to support that industry in a very deliberate way. Unfortunately, COVID came and gave a red card or a yellow card to the industry, but when we talked with the industry, I mean, you find out that a lot of the training that goes on in our universities is around theater. Okay. Right? Yeah. And theater is not exactly film. They look alike, but the kind of skills are not practically the same.
You're talking about the creative arts now?
Yes, I'm talking about the creative arts. And they are a huge employer of labor.
In the country, and then particularly in Lagos.
Exactly.
By the way, what figure are you working on with, I beg your pardon, what are you working with in terms of the population of Lagos? People come up with this.
Well, I mean, it's currently over 22 million. It's over 22 million.
Over 22 million.
Yes.
Which, of course, is then going to, I understand if it's over 22 million, you're going to be concerned, are you not, about infrastructure as well for the people, citizens of Lagos to live as proudly as Lagos, would want them to live in, a decent environment. Again, I don't know if it was nipped in the bud or not, but infrastructure was also affected in all this NSARS business, and so how's it going to go?
So infrastructure is always going to be central to development in any climate, except in places where their infrastructure is very developed. But Lagos is within Africa, and there's a gap in infrastructure. Infrastructure is a place we have put a lot of. I mean, in our sector allocations, you see that the entire things around infrastructure, right, is about 311 billion, right, and that has to do with infrastructure in the judiciary,
which has been an ongoing concern in Lagos.
Yeah, sometimes when you talk about the justice system, beyond the human capital issues, you also have infrastructural challenges as well, right? Things around transportation infrastructure, things around roads, water infrastructure, right? And now we have to think specially about rebuilding Lagos, right? Because of all the destructions that happen.
And in those two particular sectors that you mentioned, the court systems in Lagos, the transportation systems, the BRT buses being a casualty of all of this.
It's an area that, and we'll be looking at also infrastructure for the elderly and the youth, right? Because the youth, you see, it's a wide range of youth, and a lot of youth actually need a lot of support. They need a lot of counseling. They need some of them need rehabilitation. Some of them need guidance. Some need training. Right, and all of those kind of help we must respond to. Now, but why is infrastructure such a great challenge? It's not for, first of all, knowing exactly what to do is quite interesting, and I'm happy that Mr. Governor, being in that field in terms of his training from the beginning, has his hands on all of that. But the other huge gap is that you don't do infrastructure without revenues, right? And we need to grow substantially our revenues. The truth be told, the revenue commitments which our people have, a lot of them, is below what we expect in terms of paying the right taxes and doing what is just required of them. And so we'll be encouraging, using all kinds of schemes to encourage our people to do that. This is Lagos, the government of the people.
But Lagos is arguably doing better, even as you say, you're not yet happy, not yet Uhuru. Lagos reportedly is doing even better than most in terms of this general.
Okay, so when you take the absolute number, you say yes by far. But don't look at it from that number. You have to look at it per capita. You just talked about our population, right? And Lagos is home, really, for a lot of people who are seeking for better outcomes from other states, right? And therefore, that population is growing. So when you denominate it per capita, you find out that it's not so terrific, right? And it is the people that you have that put pressure on the infrastructure, right? And if the people do not rise up to support their government with taxes, right, with revenue, then the amount of revenue you require to support the economic activity in Lagos might only destroy the infrastructure you have put. So when you look at our revenue to GDP yield, we are probably under 3%. If the standard for developing environments should be over 10, over 15. Okay. So we are probably many times below what is required for the level of economic activity that is going on in Lagos, which is why Mr. Governor said in his speech that I think we need to begin to reconsider Lagos as a special case, right? Because if you have this level of infrastructure, if we are the gateway to Nigeria for those coming in, and we are the gateway out of Nigeria for those trying to reach out and trade with the world, then everybody has a stake in Lagos.
But the special status you're speaking about, it will require the National Assembly involvement.
Certainly.
Because this is I know this is a cause that Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has been championing for quite a while. But so far, no luck.
Well, you wouldn't say no luck.
Because,
the whole idea.
Because I was going to go that, what does it mean to have Lagos as a...
What it means is that there should be some special additional revenue from the center that comes to Lagos specifically for that reason.
Okay. Because among the kind of things we're talking about, look, you have this number that we're working with. I guess the public also has been working around that 200 to... did you say
22 million?
22 million. Yeah. 20 to 22 million. That's what
over 22.
That's what people are saying. But you actually now saying authoritatively that it actually is in excess of 22 million. Now, it throws up infrastructure challenges, such as you've spoken about. It also throws up security challenges. And Lagos has been, over the years, it has really, through all sorts of vessels, done plenty that has been seen to aid the police. This goes right through the governments. Are you going to have to heighten that, or is that continuing? Because I remember, even if you go back to the government of Ambode, there was a massive infusion of assistance to the police.
So typically, I mean, when you look at what I would call police formations, there are standards to the number of police per citizen. We do not cut it for Nigeria, so it will be worse for Lagos, right? and it's a big challenge. But the role of government is to ensure security. And sometimes it's important that we know that. So when NSAS came and we're talking about security, you could see that the protesters were also speaking for the police. Right? You need much more people in the police. You need much more control in the states around the police. Because when you need to work quickly, local knowledge, speed to position, you need to control the police to a larger than lesser extent. Right? And when you see the leaders in the Southwest talking about Amotekun, it's just that, and it's becoming increasingly clear that the state governments will need to invest heavily in their own security, whether it is the police force that is within their states or within other kind of security apparatus, like the neighborhood watch, which is basically for intelligence gathering, for some form of order, working together with the police. It also means that the society is increasingly sophisticated. And therefore, the sophistication of that entire apparatus needs to be heightened in terms of the level of training and the raw number of these people. I tell you, I mean, you invest a lot in the police force. How does it feel if you are the governor and haven't invested so much? Half of them are transferred. I mean, I'm not saying half of them are transferred. You do not have control over how they are moved around the nation. So it's something that we need to look at nationally. On our part, we'll continue to strengthen the neighborhood watch. We'll continue to build very strong alliances with the police force, and they've been quite cooperative. But what you saw during the NSAS violence, the violence that came subsequently, was that the police force is really lean, right? If things happened across the country, they will have a challenge. Now, and then what is the budget to that police force to support that, So there's need for very robust working together, and it's a decision we've taken long ago. It's one of our pillars. The last pillar is security and governance, and we will continue to support the police force. We'll continue to support the neighborhood watch and all our emergency intervention agencies. I mean, think about it, fire everywhere. How robust do you need your fire department to be to drive that? You see, the New York Fire Department has a bigger budget than a lot of states in Nigeria, right? So you need to see how much resource that is required to be like New York.
Because of the importance that you are emphasizing here, were there any provisions in that appropriations for Amotekun, for instance? Are you ready if all the governors, concerned?
Oh, the
ready?
issue called readiness is a moving target because the society is not static. So we are making the investments today as they are required, and we are looking at tomorrow at the futuristic types of investment that need to be made to get the security systems ready for that future. Things have become very digital nowadays. There are all kinds of things around LASRA, our resident ID systems, which we need to really begin to push ahead. Mr. Governor did say in the speech, it's now unacceptable to be anonymous in Lagos. There are a lot of anonymous people. You don't know where they stay. You don't know what they do. You don't know where they live. No
doubt technology is going to play a part in this.
Technology will definitely play a significant part in this.
Security generally, between the budget of Awakening and this of Rekindled Hope, was there any increase, need to make any adjustments? Are there any, because of lessons learned since then, is there going to be any difference, or it is what exists that is going to have to be managed differently? Okay,
so in terms of strategy, like I said, the themes agenda remains, stood the test of all of these shakings, right? But if you see that the budget has increased from 920 to 1.155 trillion. Right, and it is coming on the back of this. Also, the way our investments are going to go out is going to be very, very coordinated. So, I mean, when I talk about infrastructure, so I'm not talking about just roads or Ministry of Works. I'm talking about how infrastructure is going to, because everything we do around infrastructure speaks to our infrastructure requirements. So you see what we're doing in the judiciary, what we're doing in transportation. You see what we're doing in all the wards, right, involving the wards, so that no ward is left behind. You see what we're doing in education in terms of putting in furniture for over 212 of our children, building classrooms, and dormitories for their hostels. So it's a significant, it's an increase, just as you saw it in the budget, and it's now we are going to be tying a lot of what we do to certain outcomes that we're monitoring, outcomes around employment, outcomes around security, outcomes around youth engagement.
How soon do you think these projections following the passage of the budget will begin to actually be apparent, especially as it relates to the youth, which is a concern, and the governor, as you say, has long pledged that we're going to be working, differently and more to the point. Since everybody was, if you want, you talk about the budget of Awakening last year. It's like the whole country was awakened by this particular action.
Awakening and lockdown.
Yes, and the governor has actually said so, that his government. Even the president had said before that time that, we've heard what you've said, and action needs to be taken.
So like I said, themes is intact. And so at our first cabinet.
Okay, because there's a theme sort of
exactly.
Roadmap.
Yes, and every time you have a roadmap and there is a shaking, you want to reevaluate it. And we've done that, and it's still intact. Okay. So we do not need to wait for 2021. At our first cabinet, Mr. Governor gave the directive. We had very robust conversations. We had 2 cabinet meetings in 1 week, right? And this is all we're talking about. When he announced the Rebuild Lagos Committee and Fund, right, he also, if you listen, there were also announcements around different other cabinet level committees, right, to deal with different aspects of the challenges that we're seeing. The idea is, our business continuity plan is still active. We have quick ways and nimble ways to move towards problems.
Okay.
And we have a robust mechanisms within cabinet
that's
to evaluate those things and move on. So we're not going to be waiting for these things to happen.
That's why I asked how soon you realistically expect, because it seems like it's a very urgent problem. Too many unemployed youths that would otherwise have been useful, and I know you in government will know this better than most people. So that's why one asked the question. Perhaps I know it's not as easy as all of that, but when do you think you can reasonably begin to say that unemployed youths are not exactly in the same situation that they used to be?
So I'll say from immediately. So when Mr. Governor makes an announcement about Rebuild Lagos, it's not a simple announcement. It's an announcement that speaks to a lot of things that will happen. So right now, there are evaluation work going on. There are assessment work going on. All of those places, government locations that were brought down, there are business continuity initiatives. How do they work when their offices are pulled down? And by the way, I was just congratulating you guys, the speed with which you turned around. So I was correct when I say TVC is iconic, right? Your ability to continue to work. So the fact that all the agencies of government, the fact that you can see VIS working when their entire building was brought down, means there's work already going on, right? The fact that you can see LASMA on the streets and all of those other agencies of government means there are things happening immediately. Now, but going up to December, you are going to see, we flagged off just about a week ago, the Ibejuleki-Ekpe highway. That's going to be a world-class road. It's going to be a 3-lane concrete rigid pavement, right? 3-way, either way, dual pavement road. That is going to be a world-class road. It's going to be there are going to be way bridges, and moving all the way right to Ekpe. You can imagine the amount of work that will do, give to people, the amount of businesses that will get relief. And then as a result of that enterprise, people will begin to earn more money, right? We flagged up the regional road. And so, of course, all of these challenges slowed things down. But just, I was talking with the special advisor to the governor on works and infrastructure. I was having a meeting with the contractor, right? We need to move in a more aggressive manner. If you saw the way Cranebrook has deployed on the Ibejuleki-Ekpe road, you'll see that everybody means business. So it started immediately. Right? Okay. And you see it continually rolled on. I had a meeting yesterday on employment and how we would coordinate our entire employment mechanism and connect it with the private sector, because it's not just about government or what government will employ. It's about how government will take action that will stimulate private sector activities and cost them also. They employ far more than government can ever employ.
Food security. That's another concern. What can you tell us about that? There was a time when Lagos was involved in partnerships with other states in agriculturally. What's with agriculture? Because I know it's a major pillar.
So that agriculture comes under what we call making Lagos a 21st century economy. Okay. And some of the lessons, I would say agriculture is a gift that COVID gave to us, right? Agriculture is one of those, because surely during COVID, we suddenly saw that even though food was never absent in Lagos, food could quickly go out in Lagos because of the level of consumption in Lagos. And there are certain things that affect that. One is that we are an aquatic center, and our aquatic systems still are operating probably about 20% of their capacity. Okay. So we're going to move with a center called the Lagos Aquatic Center of Excellence, which is basically aquaculture. And that will stimulate employment downstream. It will provide fingerlings, because that's one of the problems for fish production. It will provide feedstock, right, because that is another problem. And with those quality, it will organize our fish farmers to begin to grow fish.
Because I was going to say aquaculture. A number of private farmers are also like proponents of it, or shall we say enthusiasts. Or you're now saying that government is going to put its shoulder.
We'll put our shoulder behind them. We'll organize them better. So why do you produce only 20? How will you store it?
Okay.
So you need to create all of that. And two, what of logistics? So I will come back again to what we're doing in infrastructure,
let me take a break
to make things
because
work.
I'd like you to. So let me take a short break now, a very short break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue this conversation.
All right, thank you very much,
with
Yori.
Mr. Samuel Egube, Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget. Stay with us, please.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. Unlabeled to believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. Unlabeled are ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Jackson, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Around 8 o'clock like this and begin to shoot everybody.
When the man they reach there now, we beg them, please come. They don't help us. But the way they spoil everything.
We have reported the matter to the police.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back, and our guest is Mr. Samuel Egube, Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and the Budget, and we've been having a conversation on the 1.15 trillion naira budget, 2021 budget. Follows immediately the budget that we're in right now, the budget of awakening. Even though that one had to be revised downwards, it started differently, had to be revised downwards. But before we get into the current budget a bit more, let's take this package that was produced and broadcast earlier.
Few weeks to the end of the year, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is back in the hallowed chambers to present the money bill for the new fiscal year. It was a time of reflection as we record all that's happened in the course of the year. From the COVID-19 pandemic to the destruction of public and private property by hoodlums who hijacked the End SARS protest, all disrupted the state's economic projections. The proposed year 2021 budget is coming with a message of hope as the state works its way towards recovery.
The 2021 appropriation bill encompasses the message of a rekindled hope, the same message that we had been disseminating to Lagosians since March, when we experienced the first COVID-19 case, and since October 11, when the End SARS protest first erupted in Lagos State. More than ever before, our government remains committed to communal cohesiveness and inter-ethnic unity. We will resist every attempt to cause division amongst the numerous ethnic nationalities who call Lagos their home.
A large chunk of the proposed 1.2 trillion naira is committed to reviving the economy by empowering youth, promoting small medium-scale enterprises and massive infrastructural development. The governor also mooted plans to repeal the Public Office Order Payment of Pension Law 2007, which provides for payment of pension and other entitlements to former governors and their deputies.
To this House, we to appeal that the House will help to repeal the Public Office Holder Payment of Pension to former governors and deputy governors, because of our resolve that we need to lead from the front, and we need to show this with Lagos State. We'll be sending this executive bill to this noble House.
Lawmakers are not willing to speak on the move until the bill is presented to the House.
This chunk of budget 2021 is going on economic affairs, which has to do where there is infrastructure development, safety of life and properties, economic development. So, and we are seeing a very substantial amount going on the health and education. And a reasonable amount too has been marked for youth development, to take care of youth unemployment and to enhance the economic growth of the state.
Before the new year, obviously there's going to be more development. A lot of roads are still under construction. Some bridges are under construction. The overheads are under construction that usher in the blue line. Then by the end of this year, we're going into a new year. It will usher in, before it starts raining, usher in a lot of developmental projects.
As the new fiscal year approaches, the lawmakers have assured residents of the state of a thorough consideration of the proposed money bill, as well as its swift passage. Abimbola Egube, TVC News, Lagos.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's sort of a snapshot, as it were, and what we're doing is really digging into it here. When we were off there, you wanted to say a bit more about the link between transportation and infrastructural development.
Okay, so when you talk about, first we were talking about agric, but all of these things are like at the end of the road, right? So behind that is what you do to your people that gets them ready, which is education. Right? We've done, if you look at the way we've performed this year, for example, we're at 98% of our revenues, we're at 71% of our capital expenditure, 77% of the budget has been achieved, and we're moving towards a performance we expect to be at under 90% when we close the year. Okay. But what does that mean? What that means in education, for example, is that we have started out just in response to what COVID has shown us, to begin to digitize our educational system. So we had flagged off early, which is why I said things is still intact, even before COVID came, what we call EcoExcel. What that does is that it has put 9,000 devices, as of today, we are ramping it up to 14,000 in the hands of our teachers. So our teachers do not need to sit down, spend time writing their teaching notes. It's going to be uploaded into those devices. And the device is going to guide their teaching, right, so that it is remotely controlled, supervised, and the standard of teaching around will be the same. That has also followed with training of all 9,000 teachers in readiness for this, right? That program is putting reading tools, books, and all reading aids in the hands of our students. Right, children, we're doing like 300, we've done 350,000 of that and going to 450. Right. Because
these are some of the lessons, perhaps, of COVID, where schooling had to continue, but thanks to technology, remotely and digitally. So Lagos is keying into this. Even when we'll be out of COVID, that would be part of the legacy. That will be
part of the legacy. Because one of the challenges you begin to have, there are things around teacher-student ratios. How much for the population in this small space can you keep on building schools? So you need to leverage technology to do a lot of this.
Lagos State leverage technology even in the judicial system, in the court system. I don't know how well that went. Judges, having to write longhand. Things have become, I think this even goes back to Fashola's time in government. No doubt it has been continuing. You get good results from there?
Which is why the systems in Lagos are really the most advanced in the country. Right? But we do not compare ourselves to ourselves. We compare to ourselves to leading cities around the world. Otherwise, we can't show
not even within the country.
Going. No, there's no point. Yeah. Right? If you want to be leader, then you have to benchmark yourself. We say we want to be the best there is in Africa. So there's no need staying within Nigeria, right? If you look at the schools, for example, we've done 586 classrooms already. And we've done 1,500.
586 classrooms, that is from where? How many do you inherit?
No, we're talking of the schools in terms of construction area. Have you been to some?
As a continuum?
Yeah, as a continuum. Yeah, we've done all of that.
Okay, 1,500. Forgive me for interrupting you, but Mazi Okoroafo has called in, and I didn't want to lose him. Good morning, Mazi Okoroafo.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning, Honorable Commissioner, sir.
Good morning.
Honorable Commissioner, sir, you see, you made mention about African free trade. How do Lagos benefit? I'm asking this question because you see that they say borders are closed. I agree that Lagos is close to Ghana and Lagos is close to Republic of Benin. And you look at education, there is need for government to reduce tuition fees in our higher institutions there, because in Lagos,
reduce tuition fees.
There are a lot of the hazardous effect of COVID-19 affected many parents' pockets. How do you look at it? Well, let me just say kudos to the Lagos State Judiciary. At least they tried when they said 250-something people that were just arrested during the Center Committee. Said, thank God state government use to tell those people to go and sin no more. I thank the Lagos State government. I think the other states to also go.
Mazi, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Towards the end, it was a bit difficult to understand because it kept dropping and coming back, dropping and coming back. But did you, I think?
Yeah, I mean, he was asking two questions about the African free trade. So how prepared are we, and what is Lagos doing? Well, Lagos is still the commercial nerve for the country. And like I was building a case to say it's not, the free trade is about production, it's about competitiveness, right? And we follow going forward the ease of doing business parameters, right, and how Lagos is doing. Lagos continue to be the biggest contributor to our good performance nationally on the ease of doing business. But like I said, we do not just want to compare ourselves with ourselves. In the African Free Trade Agreement, you'll be competing amongst other cities, and you want to still be in the pack. We can see the outcome already as we prepare our students and change the education system to the better. You are seeing flashes of those outcomes. The last, in October here, our own Oriwu Senior Secondary School, Ikorodu, was rated the best in Nigeria, right? And when we did the Robot Olympiad, right, Lagos State represented Nigeria, and Team Lagos came out second, third, and fourth in Africa, right, in that Olympiad that took place in Hungary, right? Our junior students, our junior science students got 11 trophies, 14 medals in the junior science competition. So we are beginning to see outcomes, and we'll continue to push that agenda. If our people get ready, we're beginning to, you saw the investments by the government in our technology research institute, right? Basically to support research on the technology space, right? And our broadband investment, right? In Lagos, 6,000 kilometers of broadband infrastructure to get our technology ready. We want to be the hub, the technology hub for Africa. We want to be able to snap those jobs. So that is part of getting ready. Okay. On tuition, okay.
1 second, please. Good morning, Mr. Joshua in Irewalede.
Good morning, sir, good morning to the Honorable Commissioner. I want to say for the way I see things, that after Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu made Lagos almost autonomous in terms of revenue, I can't say specifically what other agenda Lagos is pursuing or putting on the table. And I'm speaking to this especially in the area of security, to the Honorable Commissioner. You see, you cannot have a mega city with the kind of vulnerability you have at the moment as Lagos. What is the use pumping trillions of money, building infrastructure, and you have people who have the mentality of destroying it? I expect that Lagos by now should have a special security system. The federal government cannot understand Lagos better than the people who are in Lagos. The pain of the present destruction is on Lagos overwhelmingly. So it points to the fact that, okay, you can drive your revenue higher, but at the same time, drive your security at that same level. Lagos State deserves a special status when it comes to security, and everybody should agree to that in Nigeria because it was a former capital. So please, the kind of vulnerability we have in Lagos at the moment is not excusable at all. They should look into it, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joshua.
Joshua, your thoughts are quite understood and taken. Like I said earlier, security is one of the major areas, and I did speak a lot about what we are doing around security. But in addition, before the call came, we're talking about our broadband network. That broadband network, right, is going to create high-speed internet and capabilities to move videos forward and backwards. And the reason is that our smart city Phase 2 infrastructure will ride on top of that. Okay. That will be about 2,000 cameras all around strategic areas in Lagos, and it will help crime control, better security coordination.
Is this part of the Metro City vision for Lagos?
It's part of the Metro City vision for Lagos. So it starts with a broadband, because to do that, you need very high bandwidth. Right, internet speed and all that. And we're doing that by PPP initiative. We expect in another 24 months that will be ready, right? Simultaneously, we've started the putting intelligent cameras on the Smart City Phase 2 to ride on that. All of that will help security. It will help general system coordination. It will help transportation management, right? And I mentioned earlier that, look, the society is getting more sophisticated. When I talked about security. And therefore, the nature of training that will now begin to put our security forces through, what we will begin to do with our neighborhood watch, and all of that in terms of information gathering, in terms of intelligence gathering, working very collaboratively with the Nigerian police force, will be heightened at a different level.
Because you did say earlier that it's unacceptable, the level of anonymity of some people, and that is not going to be acceptable going forward.
Exactly. So our LASRA, our resident ID system, is kicking in as I speak to you. I had
technology is going to be a part of it.
GME. It's pure technology.
Okay. Right. One moment, please, because we have. Good morning, Mr. Yakub. Thank you for holding on.
Yeah, it's very good morning, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And then good morning, Honorable Commissioner.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm very glad that 30 of Lagos State is paramount to this government. Kudos to Dr. Jide Sanwo-Olu. And then I want to use this opportunity to tell you should do whatever to boost the morale of our police, especially here in Lagos, because I can tell you, if you read the
we're going to have to work out what you were going to say. I think he was going to make a case for the police.
For the police.
You know, actually, and this is something we
talked about it. Lagos remains, I believe, the home of the police. We love our policemen. We need to get just as we're getting everybody better, we'll work with our police also to improve their morale. You saw Mr. Governor had a session with them, committing to pay the bills of those that have been injured and basically take care of them. They are not protecting foreigners, they're protecting us. And we need to keep that morale high, and Mr. Governor is leading from the front in that area.
Let me go back to the exciting thing you were talking about, which is really education, and it links into so many different things. You spoke about technology, digital broadband. People were also concerned about 5G. No doubt you would have heard all about this. And I don't know what the Lagos policy is on that. First of all, is there a danger to the citizenry as a result of 5G? Is this part of the technical infrastructure, IT, that you'll be developing? Because there are people around the world who say weird things happen where they put up 5G masts.
So okay, so we have a regulator in Nigeria, the Nigerian Communications Commission, and they have set up a committee and come out to the fact that 5G is not dangerous, right? Contrary to what people think. We've also in Lagos talked with a lot of experts, and we do not get a feedback about that danger around 5G. Okay. But what we are doing is the basic infrastructure. Yes, 3G can ride on it, 4G can ride on it, and 5G can ride on it. The point is that Lagos will not be behind. If we want to be the technology hub for Africa, then we will not be behind in the use of technology to further our own cause. Okay. Of course, we won't use technology to further a cause that is against us.
There's a call on the line in Makurdi, I believe. Benson, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, Benson.
Okay. I am really enjoying your show. I just want to say thank you for bringing such very innovative and interesting topic to the public. This is the type of governance the young people are facing for in Nigeria get to. And for Lagos State precisely, I admire what Lagos does. Lagos is the biggest economy in this country. I really appreciate everything Lagos does, and I look forward to seeing Lagos doing one thing to the rest of the nation for a kind of collaboration with other states in the country, because the leadership style of Lagos is different from the states in the country. And you see Lagos leading and championing the cause of development, the cause of economy and all of that. So I would want Lagos as a government to collaborate with other states in the country to serve as a source of encouragement, advice, and kind of motivation to other states, particularly some other state governments in the north, central, and other parts of the north, because the level of decay in the
All right then, Mr. Benson. Thank you very much. Well, actually, it is Lagos that should be thanking you very much. It's full of admiration.
You are Lagos.
Full of admiration.
You are Lagos. We are all Lagos.
We are Lagos. Full of admiration for.
Thank you very much,
efforts,
Benson.
You know,
but just to say, you know, to talk about the first caller who talked about reduction in tuition. Just to inform you that we are trying to improve the quality of education in Lagos. And our approach, right, is to give bursaries. We've given out over 253 million in bursaries to 8,246 beneficiaries. And like I said, it's showing. I talked about our senior secondary school, our junior secondary school being champion. Even our own LASU just recently was rated by the Times Higher Education ranking as the #2 in Nigeria and #1 amongst all private or state-owned schools, and #2 nationally. So we are pushing quite hard to get that outcome. So that's the first thing you do to meet up, right, with the changes which you are talking about, because we're talking about food security. The second is the infrastructure that supports it. One of the things we saw was that things could not move from one place to another, which is why the broadband infrastructure is also great, because it will aid e-commerce. But then people still need to move. Delivery trucks need to move from places to places. So you see a lot of the rigid pavement roads we are doing to keep those roads for 20 years, not requiring significant amount of maintenance. Okay. I talked about the regional roads coming all the way from VGC down to Freedom Way on the Lekki stretch. That's 8.6 kilometers of also rigid pavement, 3 dual road carriages. I talked about Ibeju-Lekki to Ekpe, which is 18.75 kilometers. All of that will free up. They say that is the fastest growing axis right now, if not in the world, in Africa. And so we're preparing the infrastructure there. We also talked about urban regeneration. And so in Victoria Island, Ikoyi, Ikeja, Koshofe, we are doing all kinds of roads, almost 17 critical roads around all of that. Now, these roads, even though they are infrastructure to support business in the future, they are giving employment. They are contributing to the employment
so these
things
things
today.
They're sort of interlocked, you know.
Significantly interlocked.
You know, when you look at it between education, IT, technology, security, infrastructure, transportation, all these things are interlocked. Now, thank you very much, Mr. Commissioner. We could spend a whole lot more time speaking about this, but I just have just a couple of minutes more. One thing you're not going to be making provisions for. The governor himself said it, and we just replayed it. You won't be making appropriations for former governors and all their emoluments, something like 6 cars every 3 years, something like 2 houses, so the legend goes. Now, all of that, I wonder how much you'll be saving as a result of that, or is it more a principle thing?
Okay, first of all, we've tried in the way we manage our finances to try to be very efficient in cost-cutting measures, right? But the idea is more the symbolism than the size of that saving. It's about selflessness. It's about promoting selflessness in leadership. right? It's about promoting selflessness in governance.
Okay.
Mr. Governor has started that from the beginning. You know, he had said, look, don't call me Your Excellency, just call me Mr. Governor. I'm here to serve, right? He has not even bought an official car here himself and a deputy. So it's part of his natural mien. So I wasn't surprised when he said he was going to be making that announcement and he was going to. And you see, people say all kinds of things. Why was the law put in the first place? Well, in the wisdom of those who put the law, they put it there. Just like in the same wisdom, people felt, okay, our judges needs to be protected. And so they put those laws there. And the strength of a wise man is that he can take a decision in the morning, and in the evening, if the things changes and there's no need for it, they will change it again. Okay. And at this time, Mr. Governor has said this is the time to change it. And just like Lagos, typical Lagos, everybody, you could see the applause on the floor of the House. You could see the applause from past leaders saying, go ahead, this is the time, right? So those even affected are embracing it, and that's the spirit of Lagos.
I want to thank you very much, Sam. Mr. Samuel Egube, Lagos State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, as one of our callers came, phoned in to say, thank you very much for a very interesting conversation and very enlightening as well.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure coming here, and I would like to say congratulations again.
Thank you very much. Okay, so stay with us, please. We'll be right back.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to bring it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
taking you through as it happens.
It's fast-paced, hard-hitting,
with investigations that matter.
bringing in news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment, and business news, so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with that.
Every night.
The National Assembly is a busy place. As the bastion of democracy, it is a place where bills are presented, motions debated, laws made, and the yearnings of the people are laid bare. Come with us as we take you through the workings of the National Assembly. We take you through plenary, committee meetings, and probes, all to ensure smooth working